Yeah.
Okay, what?
Like to call the meeting to order, all in favor? Meeting is approval of previous minutes.
Make a motion that we approve the second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Here's the signature page for that.
You and him, one.
Yeah, I kept the top out.
I thought it.
You go, Andy. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, public hearing on 2025 CPI.
I think we just have to open it up for a few minutes, just like the other ones.
5 minutes?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Allergies and eyes feel like cheese.
So since it's, nobody's talking, then we'll just close it at the 5 minutes. I'll kind of talk about the CIP. We've kind of went over it with you guys already. With everything that we have on there, that will leave $73,680 to be transferred. Don't know when that transfer is supposed to occur. We're waiting back from guidance from the DOGF and the SBO. Nobody seems to know when the actual transfer has to occur. But at that point, there's some, they think there may need to be a resolution. It's all kind of tricky. Maybe there's not a resolution since we're adopting the CIP that the 73,000 would go into the roads fund. But when that happens has been yet to be disclosed to anybody. But the only deadline we got was to adopt the CIP by September 30th. The transfer to the roads would be a whole different subject. And then having those projects being brought forward would just be dependent on the time of year. Maybe in the spring, if the county or city comes in and says, can we use $20,000 towards this to add on to this project? That will, those will be individual settings. So once we get clearance from when the transfer takes place, it's not leaving our bank account either. So it's not like it's a big deal as far as we're not going to lose $73,000 of money tomorrow, today, or even when we transfer it. It's just once we do, we'll have a new fund on our registered labeled as the roads fund. Is there anything else on that? I think right now, the way the law is, we'll have to do this every year. So your CIP could change, or, as you go through years, you may have not done something to take it off the list. So they're going to have you do this every year for right now. The last one was if you qualified, you had to make the plan, carry out the plan, done with it. This one doesn't really have any limits on when it should be done. Like, essentially, if you ran out of a cash balance, yes, there would be no point, but they're still going to make you fill out a CIP form regardless of your cash balance. So there's some townships out there that have zeros just based off a cash balance is not the CIP, and they're still filing it, have to do the public hearing, have to have their board adopt it and file it with the DOGF.
So the money stays in our account?
Stays in our accounts.
And then what, does the county
So
decide what they need to spend of it, and they file a claim?
they would just come request it. So the way that was, because the legislator didn't really know how, because I said this is going to be a nightmare between local governments, because the city public works is going to come in here and give us a proposal to the board, and it says maybe they want the whole 73,000. You guys would have the right to look through that proposal and see if what you found was needed, and you could say yes or no. So there was still some things when I told the legislature, I said, you're going to get some board just say they don't like any of these projects, and now we have to have all these. You're going to have not city councils, but like the city government and the township going at it because their board doesn't want to do that roads project on whatever reason.
The city and county buying for the same dollars.
Yeah. So we just have we hold on to it until we'd have to go into an MOU with the city or the county, which would be another legal document saying we're transferring this money or writing this check to the city of Kokomo for the Jefferson Road project, whatever it may be. But those things are all, nobody knows what that's gonna look like because they only talked about the CIP first. The MOUs and how are they supposed to approach the township board or come request money, nobody knows what that will look like, so.
So it sounds like whichever one figures out we've got money and all they have to do is ask, because.
Yeah. And most of them don't know that this has been added to the plate. It's gonna be the city, but, I had told the mayor at one point, I said, they're trying to make a bill where the townships can, help out with roads projects. We're not going out and getting vendors and contractors. They're gonna have to bring a proposal to the township board. And you'd have to okay us writing a check for that project.
Most roads that are in Cedar Township are in Kokomo, though. They're not really county roads, are they?
Only probably would be Darrow Chapel neighborhood, but I don't know how that's maintained technically, the south side. What is it called? It's not technically Darrow Chapel, it's got a different name for it, but it's all seems like the same neighborhood. And then probably that stretch between Jefferson and Judson on Nalfalfa would be outside the city limits, but in our township. There might be a couple smaller places up here by the battery plant. I know the city, but they may be trying to annex that actively, so it could change too. So not very many parts. The rural townships would be mostly county or a few with the county/town. But most of ours, a big portion probably would come from the cities.
So, yeah, like the county roads.
What they're already doing is already now.
It's been 5 minutes, if you guys want to close it.
Okay. Public hearing on 2025 CPI is closed. Adoption of the 2025 CPI.
Or CIP.
CIP.
You guys have any other questions on that? This does not bind us to spend the 73,000 is to be transferred. But the CIP where it lists out all these projects is not a binding agreement that the township is doing all these things in the next 10 years. It's just a list of about capital expenses that we could incur.
We talked about some stuff.
Some of the wish list.
Yeah.
The wish list.
Okay. All those in favor of adopting the capital improvement plan? All those in favor?
I'm sorry, it's like the
Motion carries.
Did you motion that?
Yeah, I second it.
Sort of.
Didn't sound like it, but the thought was there.
The Senate telepathic space. How's that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my spirit person is coming out in that. We're gonna read fast for you.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
This one is usually faster than the other one by a long shot, so I wasn't too concerned about this. I gotta keep in mind, I'm like, okay, I can get out of here by 5:30, but it doesn't have to be. I gotta take care of business, so it is what it is.
Okay,
Do you have any questions?
any questions? Adoption of the 2026 budget.
So for this, there's a couple things I have it listed for the Form 17, and there's also here about the community service contracts. It kind of all envelops in the budget. Some townships don't adopt their Form 17 at the same time as their budget, but if you're setting a budget, you should know what your salaries are going to be for the next year. So the first form that and we can do that one by itself, is the Form 4. It's the ordinance of our budget and our tax levy. With those things that we changed from the last meeting, whether it was adjusting the salaries, reducing the community service contracts. We reduced some of the park and recreation contracts amount as well. That I think the number was, I'm just going to estimate it was about 2.9 million on the advertised budget, and right now it's at 2.5 or 2,547 and $46. We didn't really talk about adjusting the tax levy. Our civil levy is still going to be probably 150 to 200,000 below our maximum levy. I'm comfortable with that. It's not moving. The property tax caps kind of keep it even. If we had 2.5, we're still not going to get all of that money. We're really only coming back roughly about 1.7 to 1.8 million dollars. We're going to spend down some cash balance in our general fund, and then see how things go in the legislative session as far as funding in the future years. Because right now it's kind of up in the air. And I know the city just had their meeting last night about trash pickup, and I know why they're looking for whatever dollars you can find. And, you know, I don't have an opinion on that. But either way, if I got to pay, I got to pay. If I don't, I don't. But I think we're still in a good position here. The CIP made this year's budget very difficult to try to figure out where I wanted to come. I didn't want our budget to be higher than it was in previous year. You take out the rainy day part of it, the budget's lower than it was last year. But with the CIP and how we were townships were trying to figure out how to get that, plus how's your budget look at the same time, we were kind of confused on, do we come in high, walk backwards? You put those things in, because some people are like, well, take the approach to make your budget high, that way you don't have it on your CIP. Well, I didn't want to do that to an extent. There were some projects that, you know, we all talked about that we think need to be done, but I didn't want to do things that necessarily were not a priority to be done at all. So those things that would be nice, yes, they could be listed on the CIP, but, you know, things like computers, like we need computers, and we can't really get around all of our work is done on computers. That's a realistic expense, and we need to do it, not put it on a CIP list, put it on our budget. So I think we took everything that you guys said, we put it on the adopted amounts, we lowered the things that you guys had mentioned, and went from there.
We have a motion to adopt the 2026 budget.
Make a motion.
Second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries.
Did you get any pushback? Did you talk to any of these people?
I usually wait till we're done with the budget hearings. That way, if, you know, when Rev was doing it at the end, we were kind of just doing, there was an amount asked, there wasn't a lot of, this is what it is, and I always thought it was best to let me know what my budget is first before I make any wishes. And I always tell them, like, you can ask for 50, that doesn't mean you're getting it. And I think I'll be able to have a conversation with them. That's, you know, I sent you guys an email just kind of from my opinion, because I wasn't thinking about community service contracts. So I wasn't like, when we were having the discussion, I was like, I was really a little unprepared for that. But I wanted you guys to know that the partnerships that I do take, I take it probably more serious than my predecessors, that it is something that's not, you know, our statutory rule that we have to do. But I do see the value in it, but I do understand the money that we have isn't always going to be there. And, you know, and as things change at the state level, I have to look out for what's best for the general operations of the township. And I've tried to kind of relay that message to him since I've been trustee, like, hey, let's start maybe no 100,000, because I went back and started to look through since 2012, just what the amounts were, and they were lower at one point, and then they got really high, and then I have to walk it back. And that's, I think it's just having a conversation with some of them and saying, hey, look, like we want to be able to support you, but we can't give you what we gave you. It's not going to be just us. It's going to be the city. It's going to be the county. It's going to be everybody that's going to say, hey, we're going to be looking at what can we do to make sure we're providing the services that we need. And I think after I thought about it, I think I can handle that conversation. And it's not you guys are coming from a place of like, they're no good, they don't deserve money. It's that, hey, we got to protect what we got. If we can help, we can help a little bit, but it can't be enough where it's a big chunk of our budget.
Well, I think part of my thinking was, I didn't want it to go from whatever it was to zero.
Yeah.
Which is what's eventually gonna happen.
And I think this will be kind of their wake up call, like, hey, this isn't always guaranteed. Like
Right.
you may have a 50 to 60% reduction. Well, the real Band-Aid rip is going to want to say, hey, we don't have any money for this. Like, and I get it. They all struggle. Their federal dollars are shrinking up, state dollars are shrinking up, local dollars are shrinking up, and you are doing a good service. But it's like, when it comes back to the end of the day, federal government's going to look out for federal government, state's going to look out for state. Local governments are going to try to do what they're obligated to do. And I think, after I talked about it, I mean, they've been high for a while. Some of them, we were doing 100,000 on Project Actors annually. And I told Rev at that point, I said, that's way too high. I said, we are funding this nonprofit. And I knew we were. And not that they weren't doing good things and they helped alleviate some of our medical claims, but it's like, that's a third of your budget. It goes to this one group.
Yeah.
So I think I'm at a better space with it, and letting them know that, hey, this is possibly a thing we can't do anymore. Not that we don't want to.
It won't happen
Yeah.
once we go into the county.
Yeah.
It won't. That's what they needed to start to understand, so they can start.
Well, they get money from the county too. A lot of I looked up. You
But
can
not like this.
depends on the organization. I looked up that you can look up the counties, and if you guarantee you, I'll pull up a report and I'll send it to you. What they give every organization they give money to. Turning Point. They get money, and you can pull it up by every year. There's a tab on Gateway called Financial Assistance to Non-Government Entities, and you can look it up by whatever the local government type. And I looked at the cities. Cities are not listed, but I know that they do give CDBG block grants. Counties does list theirs, and they just don't advertise it. Like, if people know that they get it, they usually focus. Like Turning Point's probably getting money because it could be part of programs such as rehabilitation and trying to get some of these people out of the court system into these nonprofits. So I get it, but yeah, it won't be coming from the township because it would have to be how they get it from the county, and that wouldn't be my problem at that point.
The adoption of the 2026 Form 17.
So we changed the Form 17 from last time to reflect no changes in the salaries. We did put in there for the bonuses, even though it's not technically your salary. I went back and forth probably 10 years ago with SBOA. Well, it says on their 100R that they got paid $50,750, but their salary is only $50,000 on the Form 17. So they said you should put it on this. So I've always done it. Not some places don't put their bonuses on the Form 17, but I think the better to have it on there than not, so that they can, if they say, well, why'd you put their salary on this annual report form as 50,000 or 50, 70, 50? I'll say, well, it's their 50 salary plus the bonus that was granted by the board. So we just listed that there.
I have a motion to accept Form 17.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I don't sign that one. That's just for them.
Okay. Well,
New business. The only thing I had in there, which was kind of still part of the budget, is just the community service contract award amounts. If you see the amounts here, what their 2025 award amount was, their 2026, what would be approved, and then the reduction or the reduction percentage on the other side. The 150,000 there, as I took some maneuvering. There's a couple contracts like this Howard County Food Access, and hopefully we're not required to pay that, but I don't know. This is what happened. The county, the city, and the township partnered in this food access initiative to figure out our food insecurity issues back in right before Rev left. And the agreement was $30,000 for 3 years. This would be the third year of that payment. I asked Jack Dodd in the county, I said, have you guys, or I asked Pam Isaac on behalf of the county, said, have you guys paid? We had this obligation, I guess a gentleman's shake of the 3 elected officials. And because I wasn't going to pay because I was like, well, did it go to where it needed to go? And they said, well, we paid up our $90,000 in 2 payments. And I said, well, I never was going to do that much in that. So I said, I'll give them their third year that we said we would. The city said they'd give them their third year, and the county's already paid up. So that was just more of an initiative to get to where it is. They're kind of self-sustaining now, and using this through the next year, they should be able to go without getting money from the township. But it's all about food. It's a little two-part. It's more food insecurity and food deserts was kind of the goal. But I'd always said in those meetings, I said, I don't do economic development. I can't make a grocery store come downtown like it. I have no sway if Kroger's wants to build their, second, third Kroger's, but I said there's stuff about, food insecurity, whether it's getting mobile food pantries or doing our own pantry is what, I found from that. That's where we found our fit in that group of 3, not so much the grocery store, finding those, and the city can figure out incentives to get the groceries here. So that one's didn't change at all because that's what they. And I was like, well, were they going to take me to court and say that we all said this? And I do think it's a good program, but I think at some certain point, the amount that the township has been in it can be a lot less. And then last year, so it's kind of 2 pages. So this would be the information page. And this is just a resolution that you guys allowing me to do those contracts. I think I did it last year for the first time. It's a much better way of being transparent than just saying, well, Drew Durham decided he was going to go in here and give this person this much and that person that much. And it's been, brought in front of the board.
So you need a motion.
Yes.
Yeah, so for the resolution part of it,
I'll move that we adopt the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
the only other thing is the ACH EFT transactions. We've had vendors, landlords request that we pay them through ACH. At first I was like, well, they're not taking our forms of payment. But then at whose cost does that go to the clients, not necessarily the landlords. They don't care. Not gonna say all of them don't, but they'll just evict them. And I don't think it does any benefit for the client. So for the client's benefit, as long as our record keeping is going to be a way where we can control it, and it's not just anybody can send a check to any landlord. I think it would be useful for some of those, and we were kind of trying to figure out, like, do we offer it to all of them? Because there may be some that don't want it, and there may be some that still want a check, and that's fine. We produce a check for them. But some of these large landlord or property management companies, I know they're going to want ACH, so they don't have to deal with it. It will reduce on some of the loss we have on checks. Like, whenever we talk to the banks, the biggest thing we usually ask for is, can we have our stop check fee waived? Because I'll send a check to Milwaukee and we don't know what happens, but it doesn't get cashed, and they're requesting another one, and we have to have them fill out a legal document saying they did not cash it or will not cash it if they get it. That we've been trying to get, like a couple years ago, we probably had $150 to $200 in stop check fees. And I was like, give me the right W-9 so that I can make sure if the check doesn't go to Kokomo, I need to know exactly where it goes. And luckily the banks are pretty good about it. I was like, we got a couple million here. Please not hit us every time somebody loses a check. So it will help with that part too. It'll cut down costs on checks. Not that we use that many checks, but I mean, when we do our payments for our township assistants, which we did today, we have probably 60 checks that we write. This month was $91,000 again, which is scaring me because I'm like, that's 180,000 in 2 months. Our budget was 500,000, so I don't know what it is. I want to talk with Connie and say, because at the beginning of the year, Anthony makes a sheet for all our caseworkers, and we see the denial and approval and how many cases they see. All the denials are like 75%, 80%. And I haven't looked at it lately, but our denial rate is usually 50 to 55 to 60%, which I think is pretty good. With $90,000, you think we'd be like 10% denial. It's a lot of applicants aren't getting approval, but the ones that are, either they're continually coming in or their bills are just outrageous. I know Duke, the energy thing is the talk around the state, everybody, homeowners or not, that we are getting high utility rates and they come. I think Duke tells them to come here, which is fine. We tell them, most of the Duke people, Duke representatives know to tell them to contact their trustee at certain points. We can't, it's difficult if they're already shut off, but we're just seeing an increase and I'm hoping it goes down because our traffic was down, which was good. So we were really, really heavy foot traffic in June and July. It's steady now, but it wasn't as bad as it was where my caseworkers, I thought we're going to just quit from burnout. But the amounts are still high, so I know rent isn't getting any cheaper. I know the utilities aren't getting any cheaper. So those are the two areas where we get the most requests. Food. Now that we have a pantry, we kind of offset any food vouchers unless it's absolutely necessary to get somebody a special dietary need. That we're, we try to figure out what's driving it economically, and I don't know. The landlords are putting their rates out there, and if you can't pay it, then you get out. And it's like, well, then they're trying to figure out the homeless solution. I got called to that meeting down at the county, and I'm like, we can get bus tickets, but they have to be willing to come here. I can't take anybody and say, you're off to this county. So that's a different subject that I can fill you in on. I'm still trying to figure out what we can do. We have been working with the police department. We said if we have anybody, because Scott said there was a lot of the homeless that want to go home that don't live in Kokomo. And I said, as long as they have a reason to go to, let's say Tennessee, if that's their place of residence, last known place of residence, or if there's a job opportunity, or if there's a family member that will take them, we can send them. If there's none of those, we can't send them anywhere. Like we're not going to drop somebody and
we going on vacation.
We're not going to send them to a mission. We're not going to send, we've been getting a lot of, not the township, but Kokomo people sent here. And I called some trustees in Hamilton County and said, you guys got to stop sending people to Kokomo. It was more of a joke, but I do know the instance where Westfield sent one up to the mission, and then they came in our office, and I called the trustee and said, why? There's nothing, maybe check the mission first, and two, you're paying $60 to $70 for an Uber to send them to Kokomo, and now they're homeless in Kokomo. So I think in that one, I don't know if we got them a bus ticket, it was a few years back, but I did tell the police department, if you guys have people that want to go home and we can get some of the documentation and we verify it just like we do everything else, I said, it's not going to get all of them, but it may get a couple of them off the street if they're stuck here and have no way else to get home. So we're trying to do our part in that because they didn't know we did transportation. He thought we had a bunch of bus tickets. I said, it's a little bit harder than that. Not that we can't move rapidly, but we don't have anything just able to hand out to anybody. So we've kind of been working on that with them, and Connie's been helping us with the police department. Not about ACH or EFTs, but just this is for our township assistants to pay our landlords.
I assume DLGF is okay with ACH.
So it was the state board of accounts would be the ones that would have to be okay with the transactions, and they are, as long as it's been put through a resolution. So
We also have to update our internal controls for next year, but it should be fine.
yeah.
Make a motion that we adopt
amended resolution 3-0900925.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think it's just good business. You have to hunt for checks and put right up there and say, oh, here's check number.
Yeah,
You've got it. Save Anthony time, right?
Right.
If we could pay every landlord with ACH, that'd be great.
Everything's
The,
everything's going towards that.
Center Township of Marion, they said they've been saving a lot of money in postage, checks, and envelopes. And they're actually trying to persuade companies to give them their banking information so that they can pay as many landlords and rental companies as they can with ACH. So I'm excited to get up there and see their processes and hopefully try to integrate that into our own.
Oh, yes.
and the process just to get, so if the landlord needs a check they lost in the mail, they gotta get a letter from us, they gotta go get it notarized, then bring it to us, and then we'll cut you your check. So it could be a couple of weeks before you get it after
And
you
then I get
expect it.
paid till that,
So it's, those are headaches, you know, I've always hated when people are like, I never got the check. We send the check out. Well, you're gonna fill out this form now, and it's like, you know, and then there'll be somebody, oh, we found it was on the account, please shred it, you know, we canceled that check, and then we paid $30 in the bank to cancel it. So it should help.
Do we have any old business? I went down to the park today and looked at the basketball court in the park. It's being maintained well. I was down there training a dog how to be obedient. I guess he had a client that he teaches, and he met him down there, and they're running in the park having fun.
Nice.
So at least the park is getting used for something positive. Next meeting will be November 18th.
And that meeting is tentative, if for some reason somebody's out of town or on vacation, it was just one we put on the schedule. Won't be, I don't know if there will be much to talk about. So I'll probably email you guys a few weeks before November or in the beginning of November, just to make sure you guys still feel it's necessary to meet, but it's not one we have to do. We're not, last year we met in the late part of the year for the fire contract, but we don't have anything. And then January, we'll start all the stuff with annual reports and organization.
Absolutely. Make a motion to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.
5:30.